I've been reviewing every single episode of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and in this video, I'll be covering Season 5. If you haven't seen my previous season reviews, I've made a playlist where you can go catch up. The Clone Wars Season 5 has completely eliminated one-off episodes in favor of 3 to 4 episode arcs. It might lose you in the middle, but this season also contains so many seriously high-quality episodes. And it ends with the most important, life-changing stories for our main characters in the whole show. Let's just get right into it. Season 5, Episode 1, Revival. I love that Season 5 doesn't wait to pick up where we left off in Season 4. This episode is basically an epilogue to the last season finale. We immediately see Maul and Savage again, with Obi-Wan hot on their heels, and we learn a lot more about Maul's new ambitions. He doesn't just want revenge on Obi-Wan and the Jedi, he wants to build an army in the crime underworld. Maul is actually not happy to see Obi-Wan this time. Oof, Savage really tries to say, "But we're equal, right?" And Maul completely dismisses him and calls Savage apprentice for the rest of the episode. Anyway, you know what jumping back into the crime world means. Hondo is back, and he is not having a good time. As always, Hondo has a few more excellent one-liners and hilarious moments of banter with Obi-Wan.
Insolence! We are pirates! We don't even know what that means!
R.I.P. Master Gallia. Savage was definitely too OP for her. But we haven't gotten to know her enough for her death to be emotional. Obi-Wan really goes on a great arc from the Season 4 finale to this episode. He knows what he's up against this time, and he knows not to let his emotions get the better of him, even after seeing the death of a fellow Jedi. Although he feels that loss, of course, he doesn't let it shake him. He remains steady and defensive like a true Jedi, rather than letting anger make him recklessly aggressive like the Sith. While previously he got absolutely wrecked, Obi-Wan is now confident that he can deal with Maul and Savage alone, and sure enough, he holds his own against both of them. He takes advantage of having a second lightsaber, and uses cleverness rather than brute strength to fend them off. But he also just fights like a freaking badass and cuts one of Savage's freaking arms off. I have not talked about the music in this show enough, but that moment was a great bit of score. And I know I keep saying this over and over, but the lightsaber combat in this episode is really good. The fights have always been well done in this show, but in Season 5 especially, they are so consistently engaging and epic. In this final scene, we see again how Obi-Wan is always willing to bring up potential issues, but is not quite assertive enough to hold his ground against the rest of the council. Yoda decides they should just wait for Maul to reveal himself again, which is the exact kind of passive-reactive stance that isn't working for the Jedi, which has let the Sith rise right under their noses. Obi-Wan is right that crime has become more rampant than ever during war, that it's a problem that the Jedi and the Republic are too distracted by the Separatists to keep an eye on the underworld. Maul may have made mistakes this time and ended up pretty badly beaten, but he is definitely a threat to be taken seriously, as well as a major loose end for Palpatine's master plan. Overall, a super fun, intense, action-packed episode with some of my favorite characters. Season 5, Episode 2, A War on Two Fronts. I think the dialogue in this first scene is really fascinating. The Jedi discuss complicated ethics and war tactics, including towing the line of terrorism. Can they justify supporting a local insurgency that wants to fight against their own separatist leaders? Obi-Wan makes some great points, I think. The Jedi probably should not be willing to basically fund a coup to overthrow a legitimate government, whether it's separatist or not. Funnily enough, Mace seems to be on Anakin's side for once, and he persuades the rest of the council to let Anakin train the Onderon rebels. This episode is the first chronological introduction to Saw Gerrera, who returns in lots of other Star Wars stories. It's very interesting to watch him as this fiery younger man, knowing how he turns out in the future. Lux Bonteri also returns again, now fighting for the freedom of his entire home planet rather than just personal revenge. But he still has the same distrusting view of the Republic as when we left him in Season 4. This episode establishes several intriguing relational dynamics underlying this whole arc. Saw sees Lux as just a rich politician's kid who doesn't have the guts to be the kind of soldier Saw is prepared to be. But I particularly enjoy the hints of jealousy between Steela and Ahsoka over Lux. I think it's cute to watch Ahsoka wrestle with these conflicting feelings for the first time, and she really tries to be encouraging to Steela anyway. It's also very sweet when Anakin can tell what Ahsoka is feeling, but is very subtle and gentle about asking her.
Are you losing focus?
No, Master.
Good.
Obi-Wan, who admitted at the beginning that he's worried he trusts Anakin too much, is mostly here to drop in a word of wisdom every once in a while, and to keep reminding Anakin they must only protect and support the rebels. They cannot fight their war for them. Not Anakin saying,
Most impressive.
That's funny. Season 5, Episode 3, Frontrunners. The main middle chunk of this episode is just a long action sequence that got a little slow for me. The beginning and ending discussions were the best part of this episode. It starts off with the rebels strategizing how to best take back the city effectively while still making sure they have the people's support, targeting only the droids and avoiding collateral damage. At least they make this king actually illegitimate and enough of a traitorous jerk that you don't really care if the rebels are doing full-on terrorism or not. I think Steela is a pretty cool character and a good leader. She does grow on me over this arc. And I think Saw is the right amount of reckless and hot-headed while still being likable. Ahsoka is now on her own in this slightly awkward situation, but it causes a nice quick moment of connection between her and Anakin. He surprises Ahsoka by telling her that he understands her feelings, while still encouraging her to keep her purpose first. Mildly hypocritical advice coming from him. I guess Saw being Steela's brother is supposed to be a big reveal. I don't remember being shocked by that on my first watch, but judging from the various Ahsoka reaction shots, the intention was that if Ahsoka thought Saw might be interested in Steela, it could affect the potential love triangle going on. They really only set this up in that one final scene, which is fine with me. We didn't need to explore that anymore. Season 5, Episode 4, The Soft War. This episode has both good character development and plenty of strategy and politics worth thinking deeper about. I admire Saw's desire to do something rather than write a speech about it, another dig at Lux, but also unintentionally at Steela, who starts off this episode with a speech to the city. Trying to save the king before his execution isn't a bad idea, but Saw did run in alone without thinking it through, and did get himself caught and tortured. However, he also took responsibility for his own actions. Saw only wanted to risk his own life. He didn't give the rebels up, and he did successfully convince the general to join their side, which comes in clutch later. The general also absolutely roasts this tactical droid. That was kinda awesome. This scene between Lux and Steela alone really helps you see that they do have a real reciprocated connection. I also admire Steela's choice to not immediately try to rescue her brother. She has the bigger picture in mind, as a good leader should, and knows that Saw accepted the risks he took. I think this arc helps you recognize when the Jedi MO of
Purpose must come before feelings,
as they keep repeating in this episode, is actually a good approach sometimes. Bro, what is this Denethor behavior from Rash? Ahsoka's conversations with Obi-Wan and Anakin explain why it's risky for the Separatists to find out that the Jedi are backing the rebels. If Dooku takes this threat more seriously and decides to send more reinforcements, the Jedi Council will probably not commit reinforcements in return, since the goal was not to initiate a full-on invasion, but to support the rebels in becoming self-sustaining. That is the risk Ahsoka took in saving the general and getting publicly involved. Season 5, Episode 5, Tipping Points. Here's where I'm gonna really explore the politics of this situation. The main reason the Jedi can't just be explicitly involved in the Onderon Rebellion is because the government willingly chose to join the Separatists. Throughout the show, we've only seen the Jedi fight the Separatists on unwillingly invaded planets, unless it's a military target like Geonosis. Obi-Wan calls the Onderon Rebellion an internal affair. And as he said in the first episode, the Jedi will not overthrow a legitimate government. As we learned in the previous episode, however, King Dendup originally wanted to avoid choosing a side, before the Separatists basically chose for him, replacing Dendup with their own puppet king. And in this episode, Ahsoka says the Council will not get involved further while King Rash is in charge. Even if Rash usurped the throne, that is still an internal affair for Onderon, and given their current military position, that is not the Jedi's responsibility to fix. While these complex politics are all very interesting, I do think it could have been a little more clearly explained. I really had to think about this a lot and pay close attention to the dialogue in order to finally be satisfied with this explanation. That being said, I don't think most people care about these details as much as I do, so that's why I'm doing it for you. And hey, at least all that complicated stuff leads to seeing more of Hondo. I don't know why now, but I really noticed in this scene between Obi-Wan and Anakin how much the character animation has become naturally expressive in this season. I love it. It's nice to see that Saw has come around to being proud of Steela's leadership instead of bitter that it wasn't him. So it is really tragic that his shot is what indirectly killed her. I like that this arc ended with a sacrifice though, and at least Steela got a kiss with Lux in there first. Ahsoka only reacts by giving him a friendly punch, so I guess we're just supposed to believe that she's accepted things and is getting over him. I kinda wish there was more closure on that little subplot, but as a Jedi, what is Ahsoka gonna do, I guess, so oh well. Not the best or most fun episode in this arc to watch, but it concludes with a solid last stand battle finale. At the end, I think you see how much Ahsoka has learned from this experience, and how important her relationship with Lux has been for broadening her perspective on the war.
It's like you once said, many lives get caught between the Republic and the Separatists.
And I love that Lux responds by saying it was Ahsoka's selflessness and heroism that made him want to be on the Republic side. She really does represent the best of them. Season 5, Episode 6, The Gathering. I love the concept of this episode. We learn where Jedi get the Kyber crystals to make their lightsabers, and it seems like an appropriately challenging rite of passage. The Ilum Temple also has a really cool design and mystical ambience. This episode is more clearly for kids, but it's a really well done example of that tone. Each youngling has their own obstacle to face and a valuable lesson to learn in order to find and earn their own crystal. And that's all there is to say, really. It's decently fun to watch, and there's not a lot deeper than that. Season 5, Episode 7, A Test of Strength. I think it's really fun to see young Jedi choose and build their lightsabers for the first time. I would have been obsessed with that as a kid. I grew up on Harry Potter, so I can imagine this feeling like the same kind of magical scene as Harry choosing his wand in Ollivanders. Huyang saying he remembers every saber ever created is what helped me make the connection.
I remember every wand I've ever sold, Mr. Potter.
I do like the character of Huyang and his stubborn old man humor. Once again, Ahsoka has to be the competent adult and take charge of the situation, proving her adaptability to unexpected problems and showing responsibility and selflessness by putting herself in danger to save the younglings. The kids have a few clever tricks up their sleeves as well. And yes, I'm glad there's so much Hondo in this season.
My mood is based on profit.
He is nothing if not predictable, but he's actually more intimidating in this one, which makes sense from a youngling's perspective. He's also on the offensive this time, and Obi-Wan is not there to negotiate with him as usual. Just a solid, fun episode overall. Season 5, Episode 8, Bound for Rescue. It's time for a good old-fashioned space battle and a face-off between Obi-Wan and Grievous. I enjoyed cutting back to that storyline throughout this episode. Obi-Wan's little parting gift is so funny, and I love to see him and Cody so in sync. They're such a fun duo to watch, and I think we needed more of their relationship in this show. Oh, I do love that Petro fanboys over Obi-Wan specifically. These kids basically do get to pick their favorite real-life superhero to look up to. Petro also does a good job being brave and innovative and leading the group, He's more of the main character in this episode. The carnival was a little goofy, but in a funny way. I don't think there's much else to say though. The plot just kinda happens, and I was happily along for the ride. Season 5, Episode 9, A Necessary Bond. When I started this arc, I thought I was gonna be kinda bored and done with it by the end, but over the last 3 episodes, these kids grow on you, and there's been a good enough plot moving it forward that I am still very entertained. Ooh, Hondo is getting karma from all the way back in Season 1. And when you thought he couldn't possibly get any funnier, Hondo has so many good lines in this episode.
The general wear and tear on my men and equipment, a couple of them died, I think.
Ahsoka also gets to face Grievous again, and though she still struggles to match him, she is much more skilled and confident than last time, which was also all the way back in Season 1. Solid action and dialogue in this episode, with some funny battle droid moments as well. Katuni gets the main character moments this time, and her convincing Hondo to be a good person is sweet. Not one of my favorite arcs, but at this point in the show, unlike Season 1, every episode is still pretty well done and enjoyable to watch. Mostly, anyway. This next arc is actually kinda whack. Season 5, Episode 10, Secret Weapons. This is famously, perhaps strangely, George Lucas's personal favorite arc in this show. Is that why the intro is blue for some reason? Maybe for R2? Speaking of whack, the whack droid is kind of annoying since he relies on a bit more juvenile humor at first, but whack does get less annoying as the episode goes on. For the sake of the story and entertainment value, I get that you also need another character who can actually speak words. Okay, we really didn't need to bring back the mad German scientist stereotype though. Why is he so weird? Colonel Meeber Gascon is kind of funny with his blustering ego, and they set up a character arc for him. He starts off being rude and hard on the droids, and eventually learns to be a kinder and more gracious leader to them. He did react to being called the wrong title probably one too many times, though. The mission is fine. It makes sense that droids would be very useful on a stealth mission. I don't know what else to say here, it's really not the most interesting arc to me. Season 5, Episode 11, A Sunny Day in the Void. This episode is visually very interesting and well done. While I think the opening sequence lasted a little too long, the comet storm does look really cool, and the colors of this flat, desolate landscape are a very unique and pleasant aesthetic. Man, the Colonel is so mad at these droids, so determined to preserve his ego and authority. His scream of terror at the comets got a laugh out of me, but after that, he's kinda the annoying one in this episode, cause bro is actually losing it. Oh my gosh, what is happening in this episode? You have to admit, it's kind of iconic, and entertaining, I guess. That's the mind of George Lucas for ya. Season 5, Episode 12, Missing in Action. This arc gets a lot more interesting to me when Gregor shows up. Poor guy didn't know he was actually an elite clone commando who was being taken advantage of. Gregor has a nice, quick, but satisfying character arc that concludes in a heroic sacrifice. And the Colonel leaves you with the line,
"And we will watch for your return."
so you know he doesn't die and could come back eventually. That's really all there is to this episode, just a nice, straightforward story that ends with a climactic action sequence. Nothing outstanding, but nothing really annoying this time. Season 5, Episode 13, Point of No Return. This is the final episode of this arc, and it's decently entertaining. The battle droids trying to carry the detonator made me laugh, and so did the buzz droid trap. Colonel Gascon's arc to respecting his droid team as fellow soldiers comes to fruition here in his speech to honor BZ's sacrifice. This is a random POV style of shot that we've never seen before, but it's kinda cool. It gives you a nice view of the very aesthetic explosion. Alright, that's all I got. I'm ready to move on to the good stuff. I don't know why this arc had to exist or be 4 episodes, but I guess it could have been a lot worse. Season 5, Episode 14, Eminence. Important stuff is happening, y'all! This episode picks up right where we left Maul and Savage in Episode 1. The Sith are found by the Death Watch, who are desperate for allies to help them take back Mandalore. These two groups are a dangerous combination that does not bode well for particularly Obi-Wan and Satine. As fellow enemies of Kenobi, Maul agrees to help Death Watch, but secretly plans to betray Vizsla and take the planet for himself. You see the conflict between these two leaders as Maul assumes authority, enacts his own plan, and dismisses Vizsla as lacking clarity in his vision. When Vizsla discovers Maul's ulterior motives to basically rule the underworld, he seems furious, but reluctantly keeps playing along because he does need the army, and Maul is so intimidating, come on. Something about that low, soft tone really is eerily terrifying. We also see the seeds being planted for Bo-Katan distrusting the Sith and making potentially important decisions in the future. But she's still not really a fully fleshed out character. I wish they could have developed her just a little bit more by this point, especially considering who she is. Savage beheading all the Black Sun leaders in one fell swoop was crazy. Negotiating with the Hutts doesn't go quite as well at first, though. That was a pretty fun action sequence, with many familiar bounty hunters.
So the only thing that you can tell me is that I will find Jabba at Jabba's palace.
The sheer disappointment in his tone is incredible. Lots of major plot developments and a super foreboding tone that make this episode very engaging to watch. While I didn't love the last arc, I do love when a really well done serious tone feels like a breath of fresh air in this show. This is where the best of Season 5 begins and continues all the way to the season finale. Season 5, Episode 15, Shades of Reason. As they plan their invasion of Mandalore, Maul is actually the one to propose that they frame Death Watch as the heroes and saviors, so the people will welcome Vizsla rather than turn against him. The Sith predict Vizsla's betrayal, but Maul wants to keep ruling behind the scenes to avoid the attention of the Jedi, possibly someone else as well, so he's willing to use a Mandalorian as a powerless puppet for now. Okay, there's maybe a little too much delayed reverb going on here, it's a bit distracting. I don't think Duchess Satine is personally weak, as they keep calling her. There is strength in her level of conviction and her desire to protect her people. However, she is very set in her ways, and her government was totally unprepared for a sudden all-out invasion. A neutral, pacifist society will always be vulnerable in this way, and the people's fear of invasion was a weakness that Vizsla manipulated in order to get them on his side, convincing them that the old warrior's ways, rather than Satine's pacifism, can truly keep them safe. I think it's a true observation in general that people are more easily inspired by a vision of strength and victory and action, rather than peace and passivity. There are several very interesting political speeches in this episode. I really had to focus probably too hard to figure out what Almec and Satine were saying to each other here, though. While it's certainly very eloquent, the conversation could have been written just a little more clearly, I think. They're basically summarizing what happened in Season 3, Episode 6, when Almec's corruption was discovered, but the philosophical language might go over your head if you're not listening very closely. Ooh, good detail that the throne doesn't light up when Vizsla or Maul sits on it. I think Maul is so interesting to watch because the selfish rage that clearly drives him is usually kept in check by his extremely calculated mind. Whenever you think he might react or explode, he chooses to maintain a calm demeanor in favor of his carefully thought out plan. Maul keeps you constantly on the edge of your seat because you know the anger is still simmering underneath the surface, even when he chooses not to let it boil over. Maul stays true to his word from the last episode and takes advantage of the Mandalorian Code of Honor. Vizsla cannot refuse a challenge in front of Death Watch without risk of losing their respect and renouncing the code he claims to be bringing back. And so a fantastic duel ensues. It's so intense and fast-paced right away. I get immediate chills because it's that cool. Seeing a Sith versus a Mandalorian for the first time also means a much more unique and creative kind of fight, compared to the many similar duels we've seen already. And what a raw ending, with Vizsla's head getting chopped off. After Vizsla's death, Bo-Katan refuses to accept an outsider as the leader of Mandalore. Almec does his job as the slimy politician he is, and Maul successfully rules from the shadows. That is how you do a good plot. Wow, I had way too much to say about this one, sorry. There's just so much going on, this arc is so freaking good. Season 5, Episode 16, The Lawless. Whew, y'all, this episode is rough to say the least. Honestly, I don't think I've ever watched it without crying. It gets me so bad every time. The end of this arc marks a point of no return in the Clone Wars. We're a long way from the lighthearted banter of Season 1, and we'll get a few more dark and seriously heartbreaking arcs like this one before the show is over. So buckle up, cause I have even more to say about this episode. We begin with the return of Corky and his friends, which made me smile. We also see a reunion between Satine and Bo, where Satine references their past without giving the reveal away. This is why Obi-Wan argued with Satine about keeping Mandalore neutral back in Season 2. Because Mandalore is a neutral system being invaded by an independent group, the Republic cannot, or rather will not, use its already stretched resources to intervene. Obi-Wan immediately knows this, as he references Ahsoka's discoveries in Season 4. You can see the emotion in his face as he realizes the danger Satine is in, and at the same time that no one else will help her. But in her most desperate moment of need, Satine turned to him, and Obi-Wan could never let her down. Unfortunately, Maul knows all of this as well. He used Satine as bait, letting her escape briefly, knowing that she would contact Obi-Wan, and knowing that he would have to come alone. Politically, this is a similar situation to the Onderon arc, but it makes more sense to me because all parties involved here are actually neutral or internal. Their reunion is so sweet, I wish it could have lasted longer. Also, clearly someone was torturing her really for no reason. At least there are a couple moments in this episode that make me laugh. But yeah, that escape didn't last very long. I've rewatched this scene so many times. It's such gut-wrenching, heartbreaking, awe-inspiring, high-quality cinema. Most importantly, it is the culmination of Obi-Wan's character arc since Maul's return. When Maul holds Satine's life in his hands and tries to provoke the Jedi to anger, Obi-Wan confidently denounces the dark side, in contrast to his silent, violent response in Season 4, and drops possibly my favorite line in Star Wars.
It takes strength to resist the dark side. Only the weak embrace it.
Obi-Wan, in this moment, is I think the ultimate example of the power of the light side of the Force, as George Lucas once described it himself.
The only way to overcome the dark side is through discipline. The dark side is pleasure, biological, and temporary, and easy to achieve. The light side is joy, everlasting, and difficult to achieve. Must overcome laziness, give up quick pleasures, and overcome fear.
And not only does Obi-Wan reject the dark side, he also shows some empathy for this tortured monster, for who he might have been before the Night Sisters decided his future for him. And that clearly strikes a chord in Maul, and I cannot repeat enough how fantastic Sam Witwer is. The subtle facial animations and editing of this scene is so well done. Everything, the music, the pacing, the dialogue, all builds the tension up more and more until it goes silent, and all you hear is Satine's breath catching as Maul stabs her through the gut. Ugh, I know why they killed her because this episode is amazing, but oh my gosh, it's so sad. The last thing I'll just say here is that the Obi-Wan and Satine theme is so good. This version is literally called Darth Maul Breaks Obi-Wan. Bruh, it makes me want to cry every time I hear it. Sometimes I want to sit even longer in the weight of that scene, and sometimes I'm glad the episode just has to keep moving. This shot is so cinematic and iconic. It really hits you with the full weight of what has happened. Mandalore torn apart by violence again, which is exactly what Satine hoped to avoid. And then we get hit with one more really sad moment.
You're Satine's sister, aren't you? I'm so sorry.
Bo and Satine only just started to become friends again. Oh dear, I haven't even discussed the significant last chunk of this episode yet, because Palpatine decides it's time to personally intervene. Oh boy. We have not yet seen Palpatine go full Sidious in Clone Wars yet, and oh my gosh, was it done so well here. The battle between these three incredibly powerful Sith might be the craziest, most intense, most electric fight in all of Star Wars. I can't believe all of this is in the same singular episode. Maul and Savage might be stronger in terms of raw power than almost any Jedi, but Palpatine is just playing with them and enjoying it. As Savage dies, the Night Sister magic leaves him, and you see his real self return for a moment, reminding us that Savage too was turned into a rageful monster by the Night Sisters, and this path was not his choice. Literally my only critique of this episode is that, no, you cannot just end by going into the normal outro music. You can't break my heart and then go from Maul screaming right into the cheerful, triumphant Star Wars theme. Nope, you cannot do that to me. Season 5, Episode 17, Sabotage. Well, if you were hoping for a break from the serious stuff after the last arc, I'm so sorry, because this next one is certainly not gonna give it to you. At least this episode starts off with a pretty fun sequence, where Ahsoka saves Anakin. It shows how much he can trust and rely on her at this point. Because of the growing entanglement between the Jedi and the Senate, the general public is conflating the two as being responsible for the war. It makes sense that an attack on the Jedi Temple, possibly planned by a Jedi and with civilian casualties, would be a catalyst for deeper and wider distrust. People are already losing faith in the Jedi, and now the Jedi cannot even seem to protect themselves, perhaps against a traitor from their own ranks, no less. These issues are getting complicated, and this episode introduces a lot of serious questions. As Anakin reminds us,
Not every Jedi agrees with this war, Ahsoka. There are many political idealists among us. Remember Count Dooku and General Krell.
both of these rogue Jedi are warning signs that the Jedi Order is not quite what it's supposed to be, and that some Jedi might be angry enough to do something about that. We are left on a very ominous ending, wondering, like Ahsoka,
What if it had been a Jedi?
Yes.
you have to wonder how much Anakin even believes his own answer.
But as long as we know there are good Jedi who fight for what's right, it makes it all worthwhile.
It's a nice sentiment, but what if the truly good Jedi really are becoming fewer in number? Shouldn't that be a wake-up call for change? I think both Anakin and Ahsoka are starting to realize it. This mystery plot is engaging and takes some good twists and turns, and the music really adds to the feeling of suspense in most scenes. I also thought the holographic recreation of the crime scene was really cool. A solid first episode setting up this arc. Season 5, Episode 18, The Jedi Who Knew Too Much. These opening conversations in the temple foreshadow so much of how the rest of this arc goes. Tarkin confirms that people are no longer viewing the Jedi as their own group.
An attack on the Jedi is an attack on the Senate.
And Anakin fully agrees. We actually haven't seen Barriss since Season 2.
Nothing will ever change. Have you ever wondered if it was right to ignore your emotions?
Both of these lines are very important foreshadowing as well. Ahsoka has always had strong feelings and struggled with moving past them, as she tells Barriss. Her reactions here caught me off guard at first. It would feel out of character if it was really about revenge, as Anakin says, but it makes sense that Ahsoka would want justice for the bombing that killed innocent people, including Jedi. Her gut reaction is to be upset and unable to move past the fact that the military and the Chancellor are dealing with Letta, because Ahsoka is becoming sensitive to the complex, ever-growing entanglement between the Jedi and Republic authority. Poor Ahsoka is the victim of a very good framing job, to be fair. Tarkin is the worst, but I don't blame the clones or anyone else for being at least suspicious. The framer even got her out of the cell and left out her lightsabers for her and left dead clones in her way. I love that Rex is the first person who immediately won't believe Ahsoka would do something like this. And dang, Anakin is mad when they won't let him in to see her. Ahsoka's arc through the whole show has been about growing up, about working through disillusionment and contradictions, and about learning to trust herself. All of those themes come to a head in this arc right here. When she's accused of murder, Ahsoka instinctively knows she can't trust the system anymore. She takes the chance to run while she can because, although she does trust Anakin, she's actually pulling ahead of him in seeing what's wrong here. While Anakin wants to pursue the straightforward way, where he can be around to help and protect her, Ahsoka feels that she has to be the one to figure out what's going on here and clear her own name. This chase scene is really well done and well animated. It both shows off Ahsoka's skills and feels so real and intense, because she's clearly using everything she's got to get away. The last conversation between Ahsoka and Anakin, though, is so emotional. It's undoubtedly the best expressive character animation in the show so far, and really great heartfelt delivery from both voice actors. This is the first episode I've noticed Ashley Eckstein standing out as doing a really excellent job, because this is the first time that mature Ahsoka has been this vulnerable and emotional. And no wonder, because I'd feel like I was going insane too. Season 5, Episode 19, To Catch a Jedi. The argument between Mace and Anakin is very in character. Just another example of how the Council doesn't trust Anakin, except Obi-Wan, who defends him. Mace and Yoda are not wrong that Anakin is emotionally tied to Ahsoka, or wrong to be wary of Anakin's emotional stability, but he is on their side about finding her, so I think it is right that he should be on the search team, and Master Plo is certainly the other correct choice. Like Rex, he is also sure that Ahsoka could not be guilty. The dark vibes of the Coruscant lower levels are perfect for this arc. Barriss being a seemingly good friend to Ahsoka here also makes the next episode even sadder. Ventress getting involved makes this situation really interesting, because no one else knows if she has changed or is trustworthy. It really shows Ahsoka's openness and change of perspective that she's willing to ask for Ventress's help, and even say,
"We have a lot more in common than you think."
Their fighting styles are even very similar at this point. It shows Ventress's change of character as well, that she's willing to listen and forego the immediate monetary reward. I think it's nice to see the two of them part ways with some amiability and honor, for like half a second, cause dang, Ventress got wrecked with that barrel. Ahsoka got wrecked as well, and unfortunately believed it was Ventress. In this episode, I'm so engaged by the interesting conversations and tense action that it keeps me wanting to stay in the moment and just watch rather than take notes. Season 5, Episode 20, The Wrong Jedi. This episode is so sad. Poor Obi-Wan is really the only one on the council standing up for his friends, and I love him for it. He's immediately like, come on guys, we can't do this, surely not. And this is one of the reasons I will just never like Mace Windu. He argues that not standing against the Senate is more important than standing by Ahsoka. Obi-Wan looks so sad and in turmoil about it. He knows the rest of the council is wrong, but he also can't bring himself to argue further. During Ahsoka's trial, it keeps cutting back to Obi-Wan's silent, tense, regretful face. He may not agree with the council's decision, but by standing there above her with the rest of them, he is sadly complicit. Some really great subtle detail about his character in this episode that isn't even about him. Ahsoka looks so sad and betrayed when they expel her, and Anakin is furious. He may have disagreed about her running off and helped to find her, but at this point, Anakin's fully on her side now. He definitely channels a lot of anger as he continues Ahsoka's investigation. His expression when Ventress repeats what Ahsoka said about them having a lot in common, he knows she's right. Padme is the best person to represent Ahsoka, and Tarkin is the worst! Finally, Barriss is revealed as the traitor who framed Ahsoka. Barriss was trained under the Master who, as I said back in Season 2, embodies the Jedi principle of detachment, and who represents many of the flaws of the current Jedi Order. Under the rather extreme Master Luminara, no wonder Barriss developed such deep resentment and desire to rebel. She did go just a little off the rails, but she really makes some of the same points and holds the same views that Anakin eventually will. Dang, this fight between them is so cool though. After this, no wonder Ahsoka could never look at the Council or call herself a Jedi the same way ever again. Their final words to her just sound like shallow excuses. Notice that Obi-Wan doesn't say anything. Anakin isn't trying to dismiss the weight of their mistakes in that moment. All he wants is for her to come back. But this experience of abandonment accelerated her journey to disillusionment. While Anakin eventually reaches a similar place, Ahsoka's journey is very emotionally different. She doesn't give in to anger or seek revenge for the Council's wrongs against her. She simply decided to leave and move on, to work through everything on her own, rather than take it out on anyone else. This final scene is so sad, though.
I understand wanting to walk away from the Order.
I know.
So yeah, this is another episode I don't think I've ever watched without crying. The score during that scene alone, it's all so sad. Going straight into the outro with not the normal outro music is, oh my gosh, it hits so hard. So yeah, that's the end of season 5. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, do subscribe to follow the rest of the series, which we are nearing the end of. April was a busy month for me, but it worked out to get this video done for May the 4th. As of posting, I'll probably be watching Tales of the Underworld, which I'm very excited for. Until the next one, may the 4th be with you.